Hi, I'm Phil Constantine, and this is Travels with Phil. And on this episode, we're going to be in Massachusetts. You can see here a famous statue. We're going to be visiting Lexington, Concord, and the Minutemen, and when the British came in from Boston toward Lexington and Concord to recover a bunch of arms and to arrest some patriots. And that's what led to the American Revolution in many ways. So let's start off here in Lexington, Massachusetts, where the first encounter took place. This is called the Battle Green, and that's where the first fighting took place when the British came upon the Minutemen. Now, this is a silent movie from 1923, 93 years ago from when I was in there, looking at the what is called the Lexington Green or the Battle Green, and here's a video I shot. Travels with Phil continues from Lexington, Massachusetts. That's the famous Minuteman statue seen on postcards and insurance companies everywhere. We're in Lexington, just out of Boston. The birth of a nation, it says there on the little ring underneath the American flag. This is what they call Battle Park. That is Buckman's Tavern. It says gathering place of the Lexington Militia, April 19th, 1775. Church in the background. This is called Battle Park. As you can see, Battle Green. As you can see, lots of flags all around the area out here. It says site of the first three meeting houses in Lexington. Number 1, 1692, number 2, 1713, then 1794. This spot is thus identified with the town's history for 50 years. So this is where the Lexington, as in Lexington and Concord, folks gathered to prepare for battle against the British troops. Travels with Phil continues. And the symbol there for the Lexington Historical Society. Here's another video I shot. Travels with Phil continue in the Lexington Battle Green. This monument here is sacred to the liberty of the rights of man, the freedom and independence of America, sealed and defended with the blood of her sons. This monument is erected by the inhabitants of Lexington under the patronage at the expense of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to the memory of the following citizens: Ensign Robert Monroe, Messrs. Jonas Parker, Samuel Hardy, Jonathan Harrington, Junior Isaac Muzzy, Caleb Harrington, and John Brown of Lexington. And it looks like Ashiel Porter of Woburn, who fell on this field, the first victims to the sort of British tyranny and oppression on the morning of the ever-memorable 19th of April, 1775. The die was cast. The blood of these martyrs in the cause of God and their country was the cement of the union of these states, then colonies, gave the spring to the spirit, firmness, and resolution to their fellow citizens. They rose as a man to revenge their brethren's blood, and at the point of the sword to assert and defend their native rights. They nobly dared to be free. The contest was long, bloody, and affecting. Righteous heaven approved their solemn appeal. Victory crowned their arms, and the peace, liberty, and independence of the United States of America was their glorious reward, built in the year 1799 here in Lexington. Travels with Phil continues. All right, let's go over to the Buckman Tavern, which is just across the road from the Lexington Green. Travels with Phil continues in Buckman Tavern. This is just across from the Battle Green in Lexington, and this is where the militia would meet to discuss things. This is the actual room. Real artifacts. They jokingly, or maybe not so jokingly, call it the most famous room in Lexington. Very squeaky floors. And that's a real bullet hole from the fighting. That's the building on the left there, the tavern, from an old drawing. See some of the furniture in here, which would be typical from the time. I don't know if it's the original one. And there you go again, Buckman Tavern there. That's the Minuteman statue right over there. Travels with Phil continues. All right, so let's move along to the start of Minuteman Visitor Center Park, National Park, the road to Concord. And what you see here is the route that Prescott and Paul Revere and folks took when they were trying to warn the Patriots that the British were coming. And then when the British showed up, this is the road that they took, and that's where the fighting took place.
Travels with Phil continues. This is, I think it's a Hartwell Tavern. Tavern back there. This is the battle road that the British primarily traveled on coming back from Concord, heading back toward Boston. They developed this into a long hiking, biking trail. You can still walk. You can park nearby, but a lot of people come out here and do the entire length of it. Today it's not bad, or at least right now it's not bad. Sun's behind some clouds. It's nice and cool. And you can see a lot of work out here now. Government came in, Park Service, and eminent domain bought the land. I don't know what kind of prices they paid for, but some of this was commercial development, used car lots, things like that. And they came back in and tried to reconstitute the area to what it was like. When did that happen? 1959. So, for you Minutemen out there, that was the government doing something.
All right, so here's where some of the British died. You'll see these along the road. And here's some reenactors. This is why they're called the Redcoats, folks. Seemed like to me those white straps would make a heck of a target. Back in those days, you were fortunate, though, if you could hit something from a long way away, let alone be that accurate. These would be the rebels.
Travels with Phil continues on the Minutemen Trail, the battle trail. This is an area called the Bloody Angle. The roadway here makes a sharp curve, and as the British were coming back from Concord, heading somewhat in disarray, not completely in disarray, back toward Boston, Parker was able to get the militia and the Minutemen together and get past them and ambush them in this area here. So as they came around a curve, they came out from behind the trees and rocks and everywhere, as a now disgraced comedian used to describe it, and started shooting and took down quite a few. Now, I was told later that when they excavated the area, a lot of trees that were out here, well, the muskets were so, many of the muskets, not all, but many of the muskets were so inaccurate that they just pulled tons of shot out of the trees surrounding the area out here because of just the poor ability of the unrifled bores to direct a shot in a straight line, which is one of the reasons why all the armies lined up in a straight line in hopes that a lot of your shots would make it at least somewhere downrange and hit somebody. But the Bloody Angle, lots of those, by the way, in several wars, but this is in Concord.
Lots of spots out here. Don't have time to cover it all. You can go to my website, travelswithphil.com, look up Massachusetts, and then you can find all the spots for Concord and Lexington and Boston, for that fact. Another video I have is on the ride of Paul Revere, which ended between Lexington and Concord. He did not make it all the way. He was captured by the British. Samuel Prescott's the one who made it to Concord to warn folks. William Dawes was the other name I didn't mention a while ago. Again, these are reenactors out in the actual spot. And lots of places, Josiah Nelson House. This is the Miriam Corners. There's a mile marker here from how far to Boston Harbor, 13 miles. Then our next spot is going to be into Concord and the North Bridge, which is most of the fighting took place there in Concord. This is an overhead view. The red marker there is on the actual bridge itself. This is that 1923 silent movie from 93 years before I was there, showing you what it looked like then. There's been several bridges across the river here. So let's go to a video I shot there on the bridge itself.
With Phil, this is the Concord Bridge, or North Bridge, over the Concord River. Give you an idea, the water's so low. That's supposed to be a floating dock on that house over there, and it's several feet above the level of the river. But this is the Concord River and the old North Bridge where the Concord fighting took place. And again, some more of that old silent movie. This would probably more accurately be the Minuteman monument. And then this is a docent in the background leading us on a tour.
120 soldiers were sent up over the hill a few miles up to Barrett's Farm, which is where the guns were originally being stockpiled. There were 90 soldiers here to guard the bridge. And the rest of the soldiers were in the center and in a whole area looking for guns and ammunition. They found a carriage that would carry a cannon. They set that on fire. They found the Liberty Pole, which is where we would post notices of meetings of the Sons of Liberty. They tore that down and set it on fire. But when the roof of the meeting house caught on fire, an older woman, I think she was only about 70, but she convinced the soldiers to set up a bucket brigade, and they put out the fire. So up here on the hill, they've been seeing flames, but now they see smoke. And Joseph Hosmer yells, "Are you going to let them burn the town down?" And no one wants that to happen, but there's a lot riding here, because if I fire toward the British soldiers, I'm guilty of treason. They can hang me from the nearest tree. But then they can also take my property, and my family will be left with nothing. But it doesn't take long, and Isaac Davis, the man who is in charge of the Minutemen from Acton, says, "I don't have a man who's afraid." But he's made bayonets for some of his men. So they start marching down the hill. And the soldiers who are on the opposite side of the bridge look up and they see these colonists coming. And even though they're not in uniform, they look like they've been well drilled. And then there are those bayonets. And the soldiers come running back over the bridge, pulling up the planks, and then they realize the other soldiers who are up at Barrett's Farm have to come back the same way. So they fire a volley, a warning volley, into the river, and still the colonists keep on coming. And then more shots are fired, and Isaac Davis is killed, the man who was in charge of the Acton Minutemen, as is the man behind him. And with this, Major Buttrick yells, "Fire! For God's sake, fellow soldiers, fire!" And it's the first time a command has been given to fire into His Majesty's army. And the first fatalities among the British soldiers occurred here. So we have the grave of 2 British soldiers. It says they came 3,000 miles and died to keep the past upon its throne. Unheard beyond the ocean tide, their English mother made her moan. And the rest of the soldiers did something no one would have anticipated. They ran right back toward the center. The colonists picked up their dead and wounded. And then there was one soldier who was wounded and struggling to get back to the center. And a young man comes over the bridge. He doesn't have a gun, but he has a hatchet. And he decides to put the soldier out of his misery. So when the other soldiers come back from Barrett's Farm, they find this man with his brains spilled. They start to tell the other soldiers that the colonists are scalping the soldiers, which leads to atrocities later on in the day.
And finally, since I was here over the 4th of July holidays, I thought I would end up this video with some fireworks from Lexington.
Well, that was with Phil. Lexington, Massachusetts fireworks, July 2nd.
The Lions Club put this on. Thank them. And want to thank all those docents and volunteers who donate their time and effort to make this more interesting. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up by clicking on the button below. You're welcome to leave comments below as long as the language is family friendly. And finally, if you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the button over on the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you again for watching.